Is there any other members of the family who would like to say something? No. No, you don't need to.
Hey, I'm Nikki's partner, Nikki's niece, and we've been living with them. So I've been talking over with her for the last few days, and we've asked her if she'd like to say something, so she's got a message, and I'll read it out to you. I never thought in a million years that I would be sitting halfway across the world trying to write something that expresses my deepest condolences. I believe that Stu was one of the kindest, sweetest and loving people around, but I'm sure you are all aware of this as you are all here celebrating his life with us today. This means that he has touched each and every one of your lives in a special and a personal way. I have been lucky enough to live with Uncle Stu. They say you don't really know someone until you live with them. This is true. I soon got to know him, and he became more than my uncle, more than my Uncle Stu, but also my friend. The thing I loved about Uncle Stu the most is his positive attitude. Whatever the situation he was given, he would put on a big grin and make a few smart remarks and then get on with what needed to be done. Nothing could stop him once his mind was made up. His favourite saying was not to worry, and that was his philosophy in life. I believe that there were 3 soft spots in Uncle Stu's heart. The first is his family. Uncle Stu would do anything for his family and loved them all endlessly. I'm sure that came to bite him in the arse when he let his annoying niece move in. I'm sure I drove him up the wall a few times, but the reply was always not to worry, as I turned his house into a party zone where he had to dodge bodies of my sleeping friends. Amber and Jared were the love of his life. When he is with them, his smile would light up the room as they all joked and teased one another. His truck was his second soft spot, or basically his third child. That truck was always with him through thick and thin and was such a big part of his joyful life. He loved that truck and his job more than anything I've ever known. I hope that one day I can find a job that I'm as passionate about as he was. And the third soft spot is that cat that adopted us, Stop. He was a big sucker for that cat. No wonder she stuck around many times. Many times I would come home from work, finished, finding Uncle Stu's beside a stretched out cat, such a caring heart. When I come home in a month's time, I know I'm going to be expecting to see his smiling face meeting me at the door, and it hurts knowing that this expectation will not be met. Even though at the moment I'm halfway around the world in Africa, today my heart is in the room with my family celebrating the life of one of the most amazing men, Stuart James Barnes. Thank you very much. All right.
Mr. Bloody Barnes, you sent us to hell and back. I've just got a small poem to read to those whom I love and those who love me. When I am gone, release me, let me go. I have so many things to see and do. You mustn't tie yourself to me with too many tears, but be thankful we had so many good years. I gave you my love, and you can only guess how much you've given me in happiness. I thank you for the love that you have shown, but now it is time I travel alone. So grieve for me for a while, if you must. Then let your grief we comforted by trust. It is only for a while that we must part, so treasure your memories within your heart. I won't be far away till life goes on, and if it is cold, and I will come. Though you can't see or touch me, I will be near, and if you listen with your heart, you'll hear all my love around you soft and clear. And when you come this way alone, I'll greet you with a smile and welcome you home.
Is there any other members of the family before? No? Our thoughts are all with you, don't worry about that. We have a representative from Freight Lines, and I've been told that they'd like to say a few words. And I don't know what the guy's name is. Noel. Yep. Thank you, Noel.
"17 years ago, I'm sitting in my office in Christchurch. This white Scania comes up. Out comes this guy, stands beside the wheel. He's only about 6 inches higher than the wheel, and is about as wide. Walks over and says, 'Hi, I'm Stuart Barnes, truck number 395. Which become a familiar sound to every manager and dispatcher in Christchurch, well, throughout the company, in every region. Every time we was in a new area, there was a phone call, or a frequently call. "Hi, Stu here, truck 395. I'll be empty in an hour. Where am I going next?" And that was Stu. You'd give him a job, you'd forget about it. It was done. And not one complaint. And all that time, he'd be the only driver nobody ever got a complaint about. He was so equal to perfectionist in his job. Truck was immaculate, but by God he could be grumpy. He'd say, "Stewie, you're going to Wellington." "I'll go to Wellington." 5 minutes later he'd be in his truck and gone. He'd give you a ring about an hour later and say, "Well, it's not bad out here today, pretty good weather." But that was him. But the minute you said, "Hey Stewie, you're going to Christchurch," "Oh, thanks brother." And then the phone would go off, just in case somebody changed his plans, and nobody could change them if they couldn't get hold of him. But his love for that inter-ride, he's one of our longest serving drivers. How he could put up with that run for that long, I don't know. A use-by date for a driver on that run is about 5 years, because you're on a timetable, you've got a boat to catch, and you've got to be there, whether you like it or not. But he never complained. Just got in his truck, got the job done, got the freight through. I got to admire him for putting up with that and us. Because, we were easy people then. We expected high standards, and he set the bar for everybody. It was a pleasure knowing him, but to know Stu was very hard. He was a very private person. Everybody knew him at work, but that was it. When he left work, Stu left the building. He went home, and because I've been with it so long, to me I knew that he was mad on trucks. His models, his photo albums. Like he came to me one day and he said, "Oh, you used to work for SD Coolers." I said, "Yeah, that's right." He said, "So you'd have a few photos?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a couple." He said, "I'll bring the albums in, will you?" So I took them in, and he took them home, so I'll bring them back in a couple of days. He went back and just scanned the whole lot. I said, "Oh, thanks very much." I said, "Why?" He said, "Oh, just man on trucks." And he said, "And they had Macs." If you drove a Mac, Stu would talk to you. If you didn't drive one, it hurt you. And you see it today, he's proud of all those Macs out there. He would have loved it. But on behalf of all the staff of Freight Lines, we're going to miss him. He was a damn good work colleague, and he will be missed. I know this is one thing he will enjoy. His last June doesn't need a logbook. But he'll hate this bit. The dog squad have got you, Stewie.
Ignore the shit out of you.
And as you would say, final words would be, Stewie here, 392, over and out. And as a mark of respect, I've been talking to Jim Barker, who's here today. Stewie's fleet number will be retired permanently from the fleet of freight lines. It will go with them. Thank you very much.
Your glasses.
Oh, I might see something.
Stuart Barnes, I'm so bloody glad that we didn't put you in a rubbish bag. To hear the things about this guy, look at him. Who would ever think that love and affection and respect would ooze from that guy? Yeah. But it did. It's reflected here today with his devotion and what have you.
The rubbish truck turned up just as we were going to load him on the truck.
I'd like to ask, is there anybody else who would like to say something? Don't be shy. Just come and stand on the line. You've got a little bit of time. I won't chuck a bucket of water over you if you take too long.
When I knew Stuart, he came and drove for me, and Amber, when she was like this, with those curly hairs, just like that little one there, it was obviously your daughter, Amber. She was a beautiful little kid, and Stu was so proud of this little girl. And they were all so happy. They met in Foxton, and my depot is at Rangiato on Reed's Transport, Reed, sorry. But today is about Stu, and I'll tell you, he was a guy that no one will forget. He was a proud father. He loved Amber. Amber used to go in that truck hour after hour with Stu, and Stu just couldn't wait to lift Amber up in there and take her. That was Stu's truck. That was my truck. Then it was Stu's truck. And funny enough, when I pulled up here, I saw Stu's, have you been niece?
Yeah.
Niece? And I said to her, I said, is this Stu's friend? I drove up today. And she said, oh yes, this is nice. I thought, I guess good, I've made it in time. And she had this in her hand. And I said to her, I said, look what I've got here in my iPad. And I showed her the same photo of that truck, him standing on a forklift polishing the horns. Now I looked for lots of photos of Stu as soon as I got that phone call, and I shed a tear. I really did, because this man and I used to travel together on the road. He had a Mac and I had the Kenworth, and we just helped each other all the way on our trips. Trip after trip, I might add, and no logbooks in those days. So, end of the day, I was talking to Stu within the month when he was down there at Blue Bridge, and he mentioned all his family again, his mum, and I've never met his mum. And I've always heard all about his mum because Stu used to live with us when he worked with us. He was in a little office, and he used to come in home, our table, have his breakfast, have his dinner, whatever, and he would be building his moulds, and he had that big motorbike out there that he could hardly reach the handlebars because there was a big tank there, and there was also Stu was always a big person, but he could do the job. He never failed at a job. And I said to him when I heard about that, I said, I tell you what, he would have never gone to sleep I guarantee you. He knew when he had to stop, and that's the difference between truck drivers today and truck drivers of yesterday. They knew the hard yards. We used to load up by hand. We would load 22 tonne of spuds on that truck by hand in a pack, and there it was. Then drive to Auckland, tarp it up. That photo of that truck there is a load of veggies on that truck. And I guarantee you, it's all hand stacked on pallets. That was the life then, and then we had to spend 2 hours covering it, and then we headed to Auckland. No logbooks again. And we just knew when we had to stop, and we'd sleep on the steering wheel for a quarter of an hour, and away we go. And he was hard to beat. He was hard to keep up with. He was one of those guys, always got there on time. I smiled when I heard about it's a hard job to keep to times. Stu has had that all through his driving career, right through with times. Market. We used to go to the markets, Chinners and Growers, 4 o'clock in the morning, go all day and night. And that's what Stu did. So he was so used to keeping times. He was very good at it. And I'm probably very blessed to have had Stu for probably 10 years. And to know Little Amber, because she really was a special girl to Stu. And his mum. We talked about his mum within the month. I saw him the last time at Bluebridge. I went down to pick up a trailer from Bluebridge, and here's Stu's truck. I thought, oh, beautiful. Pulled right beside his truck, turned her off quick because he'd be sleeping. I waited, the cab was moving, Stu's up, and said, Jay, how are you? I was great. We sat in the truck, and we sat there until it got dark actually, just yarning. And he was saying, you know, he says, I just love doing what I do. I love going to Christchurch. He said, I've got my world in a perfect place. He's got his mum in Christchurch he stays with. He's got his house in Auckland, and he was describing how his life was perfect. And he loved his job. He loved being a truck driver. And my thoughts are all with the family today. And it is a very sad day to see 392 sitting there like this. But I tell you, I've got lots of memories of Stu, and I can tell you lots of stories. I'll tell you one quickly. We didn't have logbooks when we were going. There was hardly any truck stops when we were going. So that's how it was. It was a very lonely place. He's a pioneer of line hauling, because we were a pioneer of line hauling. We were only probably RFL, Modern Freighters, Reed's Transport, Nimmons over in, that was all there were doing line haul, because the rail restriction stopped trucks from doing it. But we had a licence to cut fresh veggies, and it was a perishable goods, and we were allowed to be on the road. So Stewie is a pioneer of line hauling. That's how long Stewie's been doing this. It's not just a 5-minute job for Stu, and he did have a break when he worked on the farm. And a well-deserved break that was too. But then he's come back to his love again. And I am just so proud to have known this man and worked beside this man when we were young fellas. And in fact, about 2 or 3 years ago, I got pulled up by the Godscrot, Stewie. And they were talking about us, and this guy was on the weighbridge, and he had 2 or 3 little cadets with him that he was training. So anyway, I got a ticket, and I was overloaded on a triaxle, so that's fine. Anyway, the guy said, you're a Ray Reed, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. He said, I remember following you around when you were a young fella, and I was a young fella. And I said, no, you never did. You never did. He says, I am Stuart Barnes and a couple of other guys. And I says, no, you would have never followed us. And he said, well, I'm telling you, I did. And these other guys then were starting to take notice of the conversation. And I looked at him straight and I said, do you know what, mate? You wouldn't be standing here now if you followed us, because you would have gone to sleep behind the wheel. And that was it. So I'll tell you, there's lots of stories there. Lots and lots of stories. And I'm sure other people will have lots of stories too. But Stuart, you're at rest now. Save us a spot up there on the highway too, because we'll be up there too one day. And I do look forward to seeing you again. And I'm very sorry for the family's loss.
Right. Thank you very much.
Oh, Barney? Because I only know Barney, not Stu. I go back a long, long way with Barney. We go back for days when we were... So I was doing general for Birch and Sons, and Barney was doing for Oxford Transport. First day I remember I was trying to back into A1 depot, and I was in a little wee J1 Bedford, my first week baby. And Barney was coming along Sandyford Street, and he's parked up there, and he was just waving his headlights. Jesus, what the hell's that dickhead doing? Well, I was told to load 50 kg bags on the front of my truck, so I was pretty raw, so I loaded 50 kg bags of clothing on the front of my truck. But in those days we didn't have power steering. So here's all me backing into Sandyford Street, and I'm going, standing up on the steering wheel, I'm going, Stu's going like this. Well, mate, you got to be joking. I managed to get the truck in about 5-10 minutes later, and from that day on, Barney and I have been best of friends. We sort of hung around quite a fair bit, and then one day he said, I've had enough of this, I'm going to do furniture. You could do furniture, Barnes? Yep, I'm going to work for Paul Pretty's. So away he went. He says, hey Daddy boy, you going to come and work for us? Yeah, okay. So went up there, had an interview with old Paul Pretty. Barney done a couple of trips down, I did one back up with him. So I managed to get the job there with old Barnes. And you wouldn't believe it, he was a beautiful furniture stacker. He had one, a best way of stacking. Up he goes, up. He wore some shirts out, up on his little ladder. And I was always scared to be behind him because he never farted. Or I was scared he was going to squash me. But we spent a lot together, and then I was so privileged. He said, hey, he went to Rangiora to work for Reed's Transport, and he says, hey mate, I found this woman. You know, she's a bit of a hunk. How did you manage that one, Barney? Oh, you know, it's taken me a bloody long time. That's for real. Well, before then, we actually went for a tour right around the whole of the North Island with him, and clip. He wasn't taking photos of ladies, he was taking photos of those bloody trucks everywhere we went. He'd stop half an hour later, he's still taking bloody photos. Oh, come on, Barney, get going. But anyway, we come across this awesome lady, and I was so privileged to be the best man at the wedding. And he jacked me up with his bridesmaid, And he says, hey baby boy, what do you reckon? Oh, I was a bit shy, in that sort of scenario. I've never known a lady with so many tats all over her body. And Barney goes, not bad, mate. So yeah, that's all my great words, Barney. There's a lot more. There's a lot more that I could actually get into trouble with your mother and the whole family. They are there for us to stay. Love you so much, mate.
How are you? I'm Laurie Harrington. My wife Cherie's part of Stu's family. I'm very privileged to know Stu as part of the family and part of the transport industry. Very humbling to see all the trucks out there today. Speaks volumes of what the guy meant to all of us. I didn't have a very close relationship with Stu, but obviously a lot of the guys out on the road did have. And to see the guys take the time and effort out of their day today to bring the trucks over and enjoy Stu's last ride, it's pretty cool. So, 10 cool Stu. Over now.
Hi, I'm Michael Hoskin. I got to know Stu from a friend, Stu Mitchell, a number of years ago, and I'd like to pass on my condolences to the family and from Spike Gamer and Marty Groves and North Holly couldn't be here. And they also like me to pass on their condolences to you all as well. Stu was one of the nicest people you could ever meet. He had one of the biggest hearts too, and it was a real pleasure getting to know him the time I did. When I seen the news, the freight lunch truck going over, I thought, oh, that's pretty bad. And the following night I find out it was Stu. I couldn't sleep. I've had trouble trying to sleep since. And yeah, may peace be with him, mate. It was a pleasure knowing you. Hopefully one day we'll catch up again. But just before I go, a couple of amusing stories he told me. I remember one story he told me. He was, when he was driving the freighter up for Oxford Transport, he was getting a bit sick of doing the same old run day in, day out. And I think he asked Owen through if we could have a break for him and said, oh no, I need you on there. But anyway, there was one guy driving a truck down on the sand job down in Twizel. He got sick of being away. So they'd come up for the A&P show at Oxford. And so they did a deal in the beer tent at the day show. So by the time I and Drew found out what happened, Stuart was down driving the truck in Twizel, and the guy was driving his freight truck for the week in Christchurch. So, and another story he told me was kind of amusing too, was there was a bit of rivalry between Oxford Transport and Frews. He said they'd be going out to pick up potatoes, and Frews being one paddock, Oxford and the other, they'd be throwing potatoes at each other. So, may you rest in peace, mate. It's good knowing you. Goodbye. Goodbye, mate.
Real passionate words. Anybody else? Okay. I'll just say, family, Hilda, you may have lost a son that we can do nothing about. Please take pride in the fact the respect for Stu shown here today will be with you and give you strength and comfort when those feelings of helplessness fall upon you, as they will do from time to time. Plus you'll have the knowledge that that good little boy turned out to be a bloody Superman. Carol, gone from your life as the man that was the father of your two children, the person you shared good times and bad. It is times like this that you will say to yourself, why didn't I do this? Or say that? This is a natural reaction that all people go through. Think only positive thoughts and you will be surprised how much you will cope without having Stu to call on when things are not as they should be. Yes, we know he had a heart of gold and almost as big as himself. Take heart from the warmth displayed over the last few days between you and your children. And that's Amber and Jareth and yourself. There is a bond that will get you through this difficult time. Amber and Jareth, you have lost a dad who was always there when you needed him, and you will wonder how you will cope now he is no longer here. Believe me, you will. Your father has shown you by his example that problems are always overcome by belief in yourself. Your father was a humble man, never sought fame or recognition, but became a hero just by his actions and the way he respected other people. Those present today are a confirmation of this. How proud you can now be to say that Stu Barnes was my father. Only 2 people in the world can say that. He taught me to face life and enjoy it by respecting others and not be self-seeking, as the personal rewards will speak for themselves. Mervyn and Alison, you have lost a brother and a bloody woman. I have watched you both over the last few days. You fortunately have each other to share the burden that now you carry. That being to reconcile life without Stu. It won't be easy, but the fact that you can talk about it is a sure way of making the relationship of Stu not being around more bearable. Use your togetherness to help you through this ordeal. Jenny and Ken, what can I say? To ease the pain that you are both suffering. No more will that truck be parked outside your place, and a most welcome visitor parked up in a comfortable bed with the alarm set for an early start, so that as little as possible disturbance would be made to the occupants. Nobody knows more than me how much Stu enjoyed staying with you two. He would take every opportunity to stop at the King's, even if it was not overnight. He even possibly made up excuses to stop at your house for a meal that filled him up, and more importantly, the company he enjoyed so much that he lacked during his time on the road. If you don't believe me, just think about the time you told him you were shifting to Hillbilly Manor at Claremont. He didn't ask about the house, wasn't even interested, or anything like that. Is there a place to park the truck? That was his prime concern. If there was not a place to park the truck, staying with company he loved so much was going to be a problem. To his relief, there was room for the truck if needed. Can I say to you both, treasure the memories of those visits and all the good times that you shared with Stu, whether they be individual memories or together. Time heals like no other method, and it works better if you share that time together by remembering good things about your brother, temporary lodger and mate. To all other members of the family, my advice to you: to find some solace in the death of Stu, just say to yourselves, aren't I lucky to have Stu Barnes as an uncle, or whatever he was to you, and say he surely was one of a kind. We're going to play another song in a minute, and after that song, the Barnes family have asked that we stand for a minute's silence for the people of M17. The reason for that is one of the victims of that disaster came to watch it, or view her school. And they were very close. And I am sure that Stu would endorse this. So we will have this last song, or second to last song actually, and the slideshow will start, and you will see that guy that's up there that has affected so many people emotionally. And then when it's finished, I will ask you to stand. So we're going to start that music now.
Yeah.